So what we're going to be talking about today, Haunted Mansion, out of nowhere. They decide to drop previews before the ride even opens a day before. It was all through LA Times. We ended up getting a full article on all these changes that are occurring. And at the same time, we got a video with no audio for whatever reason. But we're going to go to LA Times. I can't wait to see it. Disneyland's original Haunted Mansion returns with a heartbreaking new scene. What is that about? It's been rumored for a long time that we were going to get Haunted Mansion changes, and then over time it kind of became, we're going to get a new bride. I think it's a bride. And it all started because on Haunted Mansion Holiday, we saw this box, like a big box, some of structure behind in the attic area. And the snake, the big snake that we get in the attic for Haunted Mansion Holiday, it was just like half. Like we got only a piece of it on the right side. So that's where things really started heating up. But in this LA Times article, so credit to them, I'll put a link in the description. We got a lot of news. This is from Todd Martens. When Disneyland Haunted Mansion reopens on Saturday, non-holiday form, it will essentially mark a completion of a nearly year-long refurbishment project, one that added significant backstory and lore to one of the resort's most famed and mysterious attraction. It's kind of crazy that they're saying that. They're adding all this significant backstory and lore to a ride that's like 55 years, I think. A fixture at the park since 1969, Haunted Mansion has been subject of regular tinkering, which I didn't really realize that there was so much tinkering in Haunted Mansion until this whole bride thing kind of came to life. And I was like, wow, there really has been a lot of changes to Haunted. It's illusion evolving and changing as technology and culture advances. This update will be no different. One of the mansion's signature scenes has been remade and now has much more somber story to tell. Obviously, spoilers. This is all spoilers. But we get a video from LA Times. Let me see. Oh my Lanta. We're hit with the ads. Hold on, I gotta skip. Okay. The only one we care about is the Haunted Mansion itself. There we go. All right. Let's see. Let's go a little bit more. Right there. All right. So LA Times actually provides an actual video of what the attic looks like, what the bride looks like, new technology that's being used, and I'm sure in this article they talk about it, but let's go over this video real quick.
Now there's more of a somber sort of love story to the attic, but it's also got an incredible new illusion that I think is going to really impress guests.
A new illusion. Huh. All right. Walt Disney Imagineering, devoted to the theme park, has once revisited the ride's trademark attic scene. Long home to a tortured bride, there's still a bride, but she's never quite looked or acted like this. All great confirmation, right? It's not the only major change to an attraction developed during a Walt Disney era. An expanded queue has added narrative-focused gardens and greenhouses to where guests will wait in line, which we did that walkthrough for the queue. It's awesome. I enjoyed it. It's good that they added the new queue, just so it doesn't overflow in a Cafe Orleans area and stuff like that. While a new gift shop adjacent to the ride's exit expands on the storyline of Madame Leota. Does it really? Does Madame Leota gift shop really expand on the lore? Seen in the attraction, a disembodied floating head in a seance scene. Imagery at ride's end in which a ghost will follow you home has also updated. That's great from this article. That, we've been speculating and rumoring that we've heard changes might happen to where the ghosts follow you home at the very end, where you get to see which ghost comes with you. I can't wait to see how that actually comes to life. That's cool. But here they provide this like super high def photo. This is cool. We get the bride right here. Wow. You know, every time I see art now, I'm like, was this AI? Especially after all the stuff that happened with Madame Leota's. Okay. And one thing before we got all into the bride, a lot of people were mentioning the cat. You know, because we saw the Madame Leota portrait the bride in Madame Leota's gift shop. We saw the portrait and it had a cat. Well, there it is. There's the cat. It's like a one-eyed cat. Wow. Okay. I'm really curious how all this is coming to life with all this projection mapping and stuff. You know, my first look, I like it. I don't really have anything of like, why'd they do that? Or I don't like that. You know, I've seen a lot of chitter chatter about stuff like that, but like, I like it. We got the heart. We got these like new effects. I don't know if like, there's like, does she disappear, reappear? Is she always stagnant looking like this? Does she have any facial expressions? I have no clue. And that's the one thing, like out of this is the LA Times, we don't get that. We don't we don't know if that happens. We don't even have the audio. They don't provide they're kind of talking over like what audio you would hear. But the main thing I want out of this bride room is the dun 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 dun. You know what I mean? The heartbeat. The heartbeat. Looks cooler than the sipper. Yeah, a lot of people weren't happy. The sipper's cool though. I thought it was cool. As for the would-be honeymooner in the attic, she's now utilizing the latest projection technology, appearing to float before guests as she holds a 3-pronged physical candelabra, giving corporal depth to her ethereal glow, which hovers away from a shattered window. Oh, so is she moving then? There's like a shattered window? What? Hovers away from a shattering window. Wow. Okay, that's news to me. Her blindingly red heart, in a nod to the park's original version of the bride, still beats in time to an elongated, gloomy rendition of Richard Wagner's Bridal Chorus. Boom, 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 boom. Can't wait to hear that. Disneyland's Haunted Mansion has, for about 55 years, stood as a love letter to humanity's most hedonistic... What is these words? Hedonistic tendencies. Gluttony, greed, sloth, luster, even murder have been on display in cryptic halls. We're all going to buy it in the end. The mansion seems to tell us, so let's live it up. There are no gilded gates here, but there is one heck of a party, complete with serenading busts, ballrooms, okay, we don't even get into that. An exclusive preview, the revamped scene on Tuesday morning at Disneyland, where operations have not been interrupted by the LA fire. I stood across from the new bride for a number of minutes. Dang, he just got to stare at it. How cool is that? How cool is that? I marveled at how the hidden in the floor projections allowed the ghost to levitate, but also increasingly felt a sense of mourning. Like many locals, my emotions are heightened at the moment, but I was also starstruck. What? Or also struck at how much more clearly defined the bride's face is now. The previous bride, she's got a lot of hate. I feel people were just ready to move on. So I think that's going to be a big thing of like the previous to this version. It's a good move, right? Appearing grief-stricken. Wow, that's what we're going with the facial. Appearing grief-stricken and love-sick. Ima- Imagine when Imagineering was like, okay, the one thing we need the bride, we need the bride, the face. We need her to be grief stricken and lovesick. How do we figure that out? Like, what? I tell Kim Irvine, the longtime creative director with Imagineering at Disneyland, that unlike previous bridal scene, here I'm feeling a sense of sorrow. So that's what we're going for. Sorrow. This is such a cool photo. I wonder if it's really like, is it going to look like this in person? Like, are your eyes going to be able to see this kind of thing? Because lots of times, people, especially this team that probably went in there, they probably got really nice cameras, like for low light and stuff like that. So that's what that is. Grief stricken and lovesick. Just, man, something in my heart is like, I hope the face moves, maybe talks. I don't know. Are we gonna get like a muted bride? Is that what's happening here? That's intentional, Irvine says, noting that the team wanted to heighten the sadness in her face. Wow. So we just okay. It's kind of odd because we're going from like we got the axe or the hatchet to this like grief, just lovesick. Wow, these are like some big changes that went down. We thought, what if we changed the story back a little bit to the original story that Imagineers had about the lost bride in the attic mourning the loss of her husband? It was a sad thing. It was a story about lost love. Okay. All right, I'm trying to see what they're cooking here. The last time the attic received a major overhaul was in the mid-2000s, and that figure, known as the Black Widow Bride, had more aggressive, sinister story to tell. Holding an axe, that's what we were just talking about. She was portrayed as a murderous, wealth-seeking seductress who had beheaded her husbands, evident by their heads disappearing from the wedding portraits scattered around the attic. Those pictures are still present, only now the full bodies of the men vanish, leaving their departure up to imagination. What? Oh, okay, I guess that sure. Irvine says the attic scene was redone in part because the projection technology on the prior figure had become so outdated as to necessitate regular maintenance. Okay, that makes sense. I could understand that. But rather the update was there, Irvine saw an opportunity to add greater contrast with more festive waltz in the prior room, as well to embellish the mansion's tale. Wow, like, dude, we're just talking huge moves here. Huge moves. The candelabra, for instance, the character is holding is identical to the one visible floating earlier in the hall scene, now implying the bride is broodingly wandering the mansion. Additionally, the candelabra will appear a third time, materializing in a cemetery crypt in the ride's final act. Wow, I did not know that. That's brand new info. Wow. This is so much change. This is crazy. All right, so my first thoughts on a Haunted Mansion. The candelabra don't look like that in the first scene that we see a candelabra. So are they updating that too? So they all look like this version? You know what I mean? Because it would be kind of weird to be like, that candelabra is not that candelabra. And then the third candelabra. All this candelabra. How are they? I wonder, how are they making the fire? You know what I mean? lots of cool effects going on here. One thing that I did hear a lot is that kind of like the technology and just the thought that went into Kylo Ren. In Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That Rise of the Resistance technology is being brought here, and that's kind of like, this is just a different shape. This is a different Kylo Ren is what I'm trying to say. Which I'm cool. That Kylo Ren effect is awesome. Let's keep going. Wow, this article, great article. This is the perfect read before heading into a haunted mansion. The bride. Okay, here we go. The bride that used to be in there was an axe murderer. Whoa, hold on. I haven't read that. The bride that used to be in there was an axe murderer. And in this day and age, we have to be really careful about the sensitivities of people, Irvine says. What? Let's read that again. The bride that used to be in there was an axe murderer, and in this day and age, we have to be really careful about the sensitivities of people, Irvine says. We were celebrating someone chopping off her husband's heads, and it is a weird story. I know the fans. Some will like it, and some will say, "Oh, you changed something again?" That's our job. That's what we're here for. Ooh, whoa. I heard about this statement earlier in the day. So now it's my first time reading this in its entirety. Oh, that's so funny. Trying to just compile my thoughts, honestly, instead of like just commenting, you know. My first thoughts when I read that, you're over here talking about chopping off the heads, but then you're going to make the whole husband disappear. What? Whatever. I got to really put thought into what I want to say into that one. Irvine knows the vast Disney. We're talking about the Disney fan base. Oh my God. This article's great. I'm glad I made a video on this. Irvine knows the vast Disneyland fan base will be paying close attention. Of course. There's 55 years of history. Everybody's paying attention. As one of the Disneyland's most celebrated attraction, one created by cadre of Walt's original Imagineer, fan attachment to the Haunted Mansion is strong. No duh. Oh my Lanta. And the Disney faithful are especially protective of Haunted Mansion. To wit, an online controversy erupted earlier this winter when it discovered that the new shop adjacent to the ride contained a piece of art that was created by artificial intelligence. Wow, this is crazy. This is like this poking the bear everywhere. The presence of AI art felt particularly outrageous, knowing the value of Imagineers place on authentic, handcrafted work. First of all, a lot of stuff at Disneyland is literally just purchased. Not everything is handcrafted, especially in 2025. Lots of stuff totally not handcrafted. Those days are gone of like everything's created by Imagineer or just in general crafted by Disney. The moment clearly weighed on Irvine. Wow! we're getting confirmation that honestly, it was X. X is really where all of that debate about AI art, that's where it went down. So it makes it very clear that Imagineering obviously pays attention to X. I would imagine, probably some YouTube sprinkled in there, but the controversy was on X. This is a crazy article. Wow. How can they find one thing out of all of this cool stuff? Oh my! This is so funny. This is funny. Irvine says of the fan outcry, trailing off as she stood in the shop full of artfully created oddities and references to tarot and mysticism. She stresses that the A art was temporary placeholder. Sure. Noting that there are many objects coming to the shop. I hope so. I hope everything's in there tomorrow. Tomorrow's the big day for your Haunted Mansion. Or Saturday in general. More paintings and tapestries among them. Okay. That are in the process of being fireproof before final install. Wow. The paintings. Okay. Temporary placeholder. Clever save there. Oh man, this is. I'm so glad I stayed up late to do this. They felt. Oh man, we're still going. They felt like it would be appropriate for a short time until they could put something else. Are we gonna believe that? You got so many artists. The Disney company, that we had to be like, just AI art that temporary thing over there. I just feel like there's at least 10 artists, Disney company, that'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do a temporary art piece for Madame Leota's. Can I just keep it after you're done with it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. AI is just, it's like, I struggle saying this word, that inevitable. It's inevitable. I can't even say it. It's just AI is coming. It's very clear it's the future for a lot of things. I like to use AI. I use Grok, which is the X version, and it's great. I get so much info. I think the helpfulness of all that, it's great. Irvine says of the ill-fated art, they never intended to do anything bad, and it's gone now. I bet it is. We're going to bring something back in this. We're going to bring something back in that is hand-painted. Like all the other pieces are. Well, that's great. That's great to hear. It's all, I just always find it odd. I find it odd when Disney does these kind of things where something opens, not even done, completely not the story that they're trying to tell. And then they're just like, let the public just deal with it. It is what it is. When we go honestly back like 8 years, things are like, no, this is the completed project. We took the time to do it all properly. And I don't know, today they're just like, just open it. Open Galaxy's Edge with only Millennium Falcon. Irvine's connection to the mansion runs deep and is extremely personal. A veteran with Imagineering for nearly 55 years. Wow, that's so awesome for Irvine. Irvine just may be the only living creative at the company who worked with and was mentored by Walt's initial team of designers. How cool is that? Including that of her mother, Leota Toombs, one of the first women to work for Imagineering and the inspiration for Madame Leota. Wow, that's super connection right here. Wow. In the shop officially designated as Madame Leota Somewhere Beyond hangs a portrait of Toombs in her Haunted Mansion disguise. The painting was inspired by one of Irvine's photo of her mother. If you look closely, you'll spot Kim's face in the crystal ball that Leota is holding. That's what she was seeing into the future, Irvine says. Wow. This is like that's like an Easter egg. Like, I would never have known unless like we read this article. You know what I mean? Okay. Well, let's keep going. Such hidden details abound. Instruments that appear. Thank you. I'm glad this article's talking about the instrument. I've been wondering all about the instruments. Instruments that appear to hover, a chair in the shape of Mansion's doom buggy, ride vehicle, and nods to Leota's spiritual connection to cats. The low-hanging chandelier one spies when first entering the shop used to dangle inside the mansion itself. That's cool. That's cool to hear. Having to be removed when more illusions were added. We made this in the early 80s to go over the crystal ball before it floated. I remember Danny talking about that. At the time, Imagineering wanted to update a relatively common chandelier with a spookier and spider web inspired look. There's that one. That used to be in the Haunted. That's so cool. That's so cool how they preserve these things, honestly. The shop, Irvine says, has been in the works for about a decade. I find that hard to believe. With the structure of that shop, I find that hard to believe. That's crazy. It's designed as a carriage house, and the story is Madame Leota has taken over as a live-in space. You know, like, it makes me think, like, did they know Tiana's was coming 10 years ago? Like, was that in play? Because, you know, the structure of Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond is so ginormous. It literally covers Tiana's. Like, I can't even see Tiana's at all. Which it has to have been the goal when they built this thing. It has to. Irvine says it's created to rhyme with the mansion, particularly in its color scheme, utilizing the same tones of green and white, only with different places of emphasis. If the design is less ornate, Irvine notes that's purposeful, pointing out antebellum carriage houses were a little bit knocked down. Okay. Its size was a challenge. To shoehorn anything into tiny Disneyland is really hard. That's the size was the This thing is huge for that space that they use. That thing is huge. To shoehorn anything into Disneyland is really hard, Irvine says, adding a lot of people in merchandising would have preferred it was bigger. A lot of people in merchandising would have preferred if it was bigger. They wanted bigger? That's crazy. The changes to the queue were driven in part by other forces as well, namely ensuring the winding line was up to modern ADA standards, to better handle bottlenecks for Disneyland's current crowd. Disneyland's only going to get busier over the next 20 years with all the new expansions, you know, Avenger Campus, Avatar, Coco, whatever else gets announced in the future. Here, too, Irvine looked to expand on the mansion's narrative, creating multiple sections with different tones. An ever so slightly purple-hued garden is Madame Leota's space. Really? And more contemplative area is dedicated to the master of the house, a former sea captain. Oh my Lanta, we're getting so much story. A former sea captain whose narrative has shifted over the years. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? A sense of sadness permeates that part of the garden. Mermaids drape their hair over the long fixtures, and contrasting female statuaries, one prideful and one sorrowful, are meant to nod to his less than ideal romantic relationship. His love, his life, his lady was the sea. Irvine says, "What?" What? Oh man, what? I'm just like, did Master Gracie just get booted? Okay, we just got to keep going. We got to keep going. Maybe we'll get our answers. Leota's spot is more irreverent. Never sure. Of particular interest is a not so hidden conduit that runs on the side of the centerpiece tree. Here, Irvine created a tribute to late Imagineer Raleigh Crump. That's cool to hear. I can't wait to see that. Known for his whimsical art and one of the first artists to work on the mansion itself. Raleigh Crump used to do a thing he called the Egyptian eye. Irvine says, a lot of his drawings for mansion have that. So I hand painted it on the conduit to make it look like a snake and put his initials on the top. We gotta have a photo, right? Is there a photo? Where do I find this? This is so cool that they're talking about it. Is there a snake? Are we just not looking in the right? Wow, I'm going to try to find that when I go. A lot of his drawings for the mansion have that, so I hand painted it on the conduit to make it look like a snake and put his initials on the top. The gardens are a mix of original and found objects. Irvine stops to point out some of the Imagineering crafted grates, which hides utility with astrological flourishes, and says she scoured antique shops from Pasadena to Temecula, looking for items that would fit. She's happy to share where she collected a pair of sleeping lions, for instance, Irvine found in the back pages of a catalog for a Chicago statue company. And 2 iron griffins were hiding in the corner of an Alhambra marble shop. Okay. The captain is Master Gracie, quite possibly. Okay. Irvine says she isn't bothered. Oh my! We're going back to the fans. This is wild. I did not expect this article to be this crazy. Irvine says she isn't bothered when fans discover where an item was procured. You know, before I keep going, I was just talking to Danny about that, where you could take a picture of almost anything, and if it's being sold somewhere, Google can literally search for it in less than like 10 seconds. Like I'm just, for instance, totally irrelevant to Disneyland. I take a picture of a power band. Where can I purchase this? Boom, instant. eBay sells, Universal Studios Hollywood. Like, it'll give you all these listings. Like, it's crazy how AI. It's essentially AI search engines that just find things like, where did I buy this one piece of art? It tells you where you could buy it. 10 different websites. Like, it's wild. So I think that has changed Imagineering a little bit. Obviously they put them on this like higher pedestal of like, hey, you bought that at this store for this price. You found this at this place. Like, they're just, I guess you could say they're on the hot seat a lot more with certain items, because people could just pinpoint like, hey, you bought that at this website. What? And you're just plopping it on the ride or in the queue or where. I don't know. It's just, things are more in the open now of like, was this purchased somewhere or not? Like, it's crazy. AI is changing things. Irvine says she isn't bothered when fans discover where an item was procured. it would be impossible for us to make everything, which I understand. To me, I understand. You know, me and Danny were like taking pictures of things at DCA one time at the Starbucks, the Starbucks at DCA. Dude, the light fixtures all bought somewhere, they're not made. Like these certain art things that we saw like on the wall, bought somewhere. I was like, wow, I can't believe Google finds things that fast of like these random things that I would have no idea where they were bought. Google finds it with search. As Irvine walks the ground, pointing at various weeping trees and plants, she also spots areas to continue to tinker. Wow, so the cue's going to keep changing. She wonders if a grassy nook in the front of mansion is too pristine, as she laments the fact that the fountain relocated from nearby. New Orleans Square is no longer pumping water. I know. We water effects are always cool when they're at the theme park. Noting such complex construction wasn't in budget. There's the word. There's the word. We've been talking about that so much. Budget. It's like when things come down to Disneyland, they're just like, yeah, give them the tightest budget possible. Like no expansion. But we do a Disney Plus show, unlimited budget. We do a Disney movie, 180 billion. Here you go. Crazy. She points to an iron horse on a utility box, quickly adding the direction of the face and the handle may someday need to be changed. What? And there may still be more work to do inside the mansion. Oh, here it is. I heard about this earlier. And there may still be more work to do inside the mansion. When Imagineering last made updates to the attraction in 2021, Irvine's team spoke of potentially It's like hard to read this thing. Irvine's team spoke of potentially removing the hanging corpse in the stretching room. I remember that. I remember a lot of triggering. Noting such an image could be triggering for some guests. We're still looking at that, Irvine says. That one is complicated structurally, one thing at a time. Wow. That statement right here, this statement right here, that just tells you. It just tells you. They are dedicated to get that hanging guy, the hanging person out of there. But like, my first thoughts when I read that and them reiterating in 2025, this is 4 years later. Are you going to have to change the audio? How does the story also happen? What would even go up there? Nothing? Wild. It's hard to react to that. For a place dedicated to the dead, the Haunted Mansion remains a living entity. And that is it. Wow, what an article. Truly enjoyed reading this. That was a lot of fun. The main thing I get out of this, I can see why X erupted. I could totally see why people are just like, what? No. Yeah, wild. Very wild. Well, Saturday's the big day. We're all going to be able to view everything and dissect everything, and it's going to be a big deal. Haunted Mansion, what a wonderful ride. It's cool that such an old ride still getting updates. 2025, how cool is that? 55 years later. We got this ride that literally 55 years old getting 2025 technology. I think it's awesome. My first thoughts again, I'll say it. I think it's beautiful. I feel like this effect's going to be really cool visually in person, audio playing, story happening. It's just going to feel a lot different than just like super analyzing a photo, you know what I mean? Or even that other video that we saw. But that's it for this article. Crazy times.